My guests are keeping up with all the campaign give and take, and Democratic political analyst Jesse Mermel and Republican political analyst Jeff Simone. Of course, Hillary responded to that tweet with "delete your account," which is the great, teen put down.
Just like a liberal trying to silence Republicans.
Well, and the best part was that the New York Times, who had to explain what that meant.
Right. Yeah. I know, it's hard. Okay, let's start with you, Mr. Simone. Do you think Bernie Sanders should have recognized the history of the moment the other night instead of just launching into a campaign speech?
Well, as a candidate, he's in a tough position. I mean, to concede in the way that Hillary supporters would want him to probably wasn't going to happen in the first place. I think after talking with President Obama, he could definitely, in the days to come out with a very eloquent and supportive statement if he chooses to. But it remains to be seen if he's going to do that or wants to hold his cards until the convention to have more leverage to maybe influence the vice presidential pick, influence the platform. So he's smart to actually not full-throatedly endorse Secretary Clinton.
Jesse, my Facebook friend Lady Bunny, who started Wigstock in New York City, she said, let's take a moment to congratulate Hillary Clinton, the first woman to get the Democratic nomination, and then she said, and the first Republican to get the Democratic nomination.
Oh, goodness.
What do you think about the charges now that we're going to go right to the middle?
Look at where the Republican side is. Thinking of Hillary Clinton as the middle, first of all, isn't correct regardless, but thinking of her as the middle compared to where Donald Trump is insane. I actually think the news-making thing was that today we had the first black president endorse the first woman nominee of a major party. That's kind of cool.
And it's also the first president who has an attorney general investigating the presumptive nominee.
Well, I'm surprised you brought that up instead of me.
Well, looking at you, go ahead. I mean, is that a challenge, do you think?
Look, I do recognize, even though I do not support Hillary Clinton, I'm not a fan of hers, I do recognize the significance of this moment. I mean, it's a major party. This is the first female nominee. I think the allure of that lasts about 24 to 48 hours, and then we're going to get down to policy, which is what I'd like it to be. Unfortunately, with either of these candidates, I don't know if we'll ever get there.
What are you going to do? What are you doing?
Me personally?
Yes. Mr. Republican?
A few months ago, I've been on this program, I've been talking about how I can't support Trump. I'm not never Trump, I'm mostly never Trump, because there could be something in the future where it changes. But right now, I can't support this man.
The big problem, Jesse, that people are talking about, actually people aren't talking about, that Trump has is going to be a fundraising problem. He is running out of his own personal money. He doesn't have $1 billion to put in the way he said. He is holding these very small hedge funds sort of attended campaign events to bring in lots of money, but and people don't want to fundraise for him. People are afraid that he's going to run out of money.
I think that is the least of the things people are afraid of around Donald Trump, but yeah, people are legitimately worried about that, on top of the fact that he doesn't have a campaign organization. It's one thing in the primaries to not have a big organization, to be lean and mean the way he was, but if he wants to be competitive in states that he says he's going to try to make competitive, like California, that's been Democratic since Bill Clinton's 1992 election, he needs a field operation, and he's not close to having it. And you know what pays for a field operation?
Money.
Fundraising. So he's got a lot of problems.
Jeff, Susan Collins up in Maine, senator from Maine, Republican, is saying that she's very close to backing Hillary Clinton. Is this split in the Republican Party going to continue? And are we still on the, oh my gosh, hallelujah pass, we're gonna find a third party candidate?
Third party becomes less and less likely with each passing day because there are ballot deadlines crossing all the states. So literally with every passing day it becomes less and less likely. There is a scenario where you could throw the Hail Mary at the convention, deny Trump because of his behavior.
And they could change the rules before it happens.
Absolutely.
Right.
And I don't think that would be a bad idea. I wouldn't think that I wouldn't saying that now, but Susan Collins can make up her own mind. I think there's other options besides supporting Hillary Clinton as a Republican.
What about the Bill Weld? I know he's on the vice presidential side of it, but we're only going to talk about Bill Weld, let's be honest. Is that an option, do you think, for some of the Bernie voters who won't vote for Hillary?
I can't say there would be any of them, but I have to imagine that Bernie Sanders voters and the values that they hold so dear are going to do anything necessary to stop Donald Trump, and certainly voting for a libertarian ticket, including our good Massachusetts friend Bill Weld, is not going to help stop Donald Trump.
you think it's gonna take a chunk out of the Republican votes?
It looks like it's actually taking an even split, or maybe even a little more towards the Democrat, the Libertarian ticket right now. And very few polling results so far, but it's actually an even split taking for both parties.
But that's now, as our unification process is just beginning. I don't think it's gonna stay that way.
Yeah, I think after last night or this week, you're going to see a big bump for Hillary Clinton. She'll probably go up in the polls. The real change between now and convention time will be the poll results after Trump's horrible comments about Judge Curiel. What do the polls say? Because if he's suddenly down by 5, then down by 8, then down by 10, you're going to get a lot of people saying that we should change the rules before the convention. But unfortunately, the reality is, they're all politicians and they're going to do political things, which means if they don't see the benefit to doing this, you're going to see a Trump nomination.
I remember when Governor Kasich was in the race, you remember him, and we sat and we chatted, and I said, would you support Trump if he's the nominee? And he said, well, he's gonna have to say something terrible for me not to. Now, he'd already talked about
Check and
Muslims,
check.
he already talked about Mexicans, and now he's gone into attacking the judicial system of the United States. I mean, when you talk to people who are supporting Trump, is there a tipping point? I mean, what terrible thing does he have to say?
The Republicans who I know who are in this pickle, there's 3 basic categories. There's mostly Trump or never Trump / never Trump. There's party loyalists who I can respect and say he's our nominee. I'm going to back him. And
The
then
Scalias of the group, if you will.
and then there are folks who are just are Trump. The Trumpkins, the Trump bots, so to speak. And honestly, it's tough to reason with them because there's no getting around.
When does Bernie Sanders drop out?
I think after DC votes next week.
Okay,
I
good.
think he might still continue to be a voice heading into the convention, but I think he can say he let everyone vote after DC on Tuesday, and I think
Save face
today you saw the start of a real turning point with
All
Bernie
right, you
Sanders.
two. I missed you. I'm glad you're back. So
Glad
Glad to
we're
be
gonna have
back.
some more fun. Okay, great. Thanks for coming in. We'll talk to you soon. Next.